you all for coming out this morning to hear the stories that we'll be discussing this morning. So thank you. My name is John Birdsong. To piggyback off JC, my name is John Birdsong. I'm with Atlanta Ventures, and we're really excited to share today's program with y'all. We serve entrepreneurs through content, community, and capital. And a lot of the content that we do is long-form articles, regular blogs. Community will have lots of events where we highlight great entrepreneurs and learn from their stories. And then also capital, where we will invest in entrepreneurs from idea stage all the way through growth stage. So welcome this morning. We have Burks. Solomon.
Hi. I just got married. I'm still getting used to that Solomon part, but yes.
Wonderful.
We can't hear her mic.
Oh.
Hello.
Not on.
No? Can you hear me? Oh, I should. How about now? Yes?
Good.
There you go.
Wonderful. Well, it seems like not that long ago where I was emailing Jewel and seeing if she would speak at Atlanta Startup Village when it was just her and her co-founder, and presenting in front of a couple hundred people their product. And I think at the time it was, maybe MVP was just out. Fast forward a few years, acquired by Amazon. And so we want to talk a lot today about just the decisions Jewel has made, the progress, and all the fun war stories. So let's first start out with, so grew up in Nashville.
Yes.
And, from Nashville, went to Howard. And when did you really start exercising the entrepreneurial muscle? Was it in high school, college, right afterwards?
Yeah, so I didn't really have a choice when it came to entrepreneurship because both my parents are entrepreneurs and I was working in their businesses from like age 5 on up. So my mom is an insurance agent, and she had an insurance agency. So my job in her agency was to knock on doors and give people flyers. I was her picture taker at some point when I had to go around in the city and take pictures of homes. And then my dad, he had taken over family businesses that my grandfather started. And so every summer when I was with my dad, I would be the checkout girl at the convenience store. We had a Subway for a while, so I was making sandwiches. I had lots of jobs all growing up, and I think that's pretty much where I thought that I would become an entrepreneur one day because I just watched my parents do that.
Wonderful. And so you're in school, and it's 2007, 8, and you decide to take an internship at Goldman Sachs, which, 2007, 2008, who didn't want to be in finance, right? And Goldman Sachs was the best.
Right, so the timing was very interesting. So at Howard, we had this program where each freshman was put on a team. Each freshman in the business school was put on a team. And my team was the Goldman Sachs team. So all year we did different case studies and projects for Goldman Sachs. And there was kind of an unspoken idea that the best top performing student would be able to get an internship. And so that was my goal. From the time I stepped on campus until it was announced who would be getting that internship, I wanted to be the student that was selected. And that was my freshman year, and Goldman didn't have freshman interns, so I had to really work hard to do that. But I just had this focus that I was going to be the student that was selected for this internship, and I was. But I was not paying attention to like the macroeconomics of the time. I was just focused on that internship. And so when I got to New York, during that summer is really when things started to take a downturn. And I remember I had friends who were interning at Lehman Brothers, and like they didn't complete their internship because things were just falling apart. And it was then where I was like, okay, I did enjoy my summer at Goldman, but I probably should look into other industries because maybe this industry won't be here for very long. And so that's when I started looking into where I might want to intern for the next summer, and Google was on campus when I got back to school recruiting. So that was kind of my entry into the tech industry.
Wow. So put your mind to it and said, I'm going to be the top person that wins this internship. You did. So Google comes on and you're like, all right, now I'm putting all my focus and energy into Google.
Yeah, that was it. And I really, at that time I did not know anything about the tech industry. I didn't know, Silicon Valley, I had no concept of what that was. And I just thought, oh, Google sounds like a cool place to work. My friend had interned there the year before and told me he had a great time. So I just went to like an information session they had and then interviewed and hit it off with the...
How was the interview? Is it as difficult as everyone says it is?
So this was my hack to the interview. I'm an artist. I love to paint and draw. And so when I was in college, I used to take my portfolio to interviews just in case they asked, like, what's your special talent? I'd be ready to hit them with my paintings.
Whack.
And so it just so happened that they did ask that question of, what makes you different or what's your passion outside of your schoolwork? And so I was like, oh, I have my portfolio to show you. And it just so happened that the interviewer really liked my portfolio. So I actually credit my art for getting me the job at Google because we connected and we're talking about art history and paintings and all that. And I got the job, so it wasn't that hard.
Wow. That is really out of the box and brilliant. Great. So then you graduate and fly out to California.
Yeah. So I had such a great summer at Google, and really it was just eye-opening as far as what all was happening in Silicon Valley at that time. So this was summer '09.
Yep.
And I got really energized about it and decided that I wanted to graduate early from school. So I made a plan to double up that semester and finish during the summer, and got an offer to go back in summer 2010 to start at Google.
Wow, very impressive. So help us understand what attracted you to Google, what attracted you to technology.
Yeah, so I think the coolest thing was just when I got there, I had a lot of autonomy to come up with ideas and just run with them. So at that time, my big thing that I was really excited about was Google Apps, and specifically for education. So I had, in my university, become really frustrated with how I would send emails to my professors and they may or may not get them. Or, I'd try to submit assignments and it may or may not get there. And when I was at Google, I was like, everything here works. Like there's no question mark about whether or not if I send an email to my manager, they're gonna get it. So I became really excited about Google Apps for Education and put together this proposal to sell Howard on changing from the legacy systems they were using to Google Apps. And so that proposal became a template for other universities, and they kind of started a student ambassador program out of what I was doing at Howard. Mm-hmm. And that got me a job at Google Enterprise because they were like, she can sell her school and create a little master plan for other universities, then she should work here.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much how I got the full-time offer at Google, and also was able to get Howard to move over to Google Apps.
And this is all just self-starting. You're seeing the need in the market, and you're working on this blueprint,
yeah,
24/7.
At the looking back on it, I can call it that. But at the time, I was just like, I'm really frustrated that I can't send the emails that I want to send or get the connectivity that I want to get on campus. And Google has a solution for this, so we should take this to my campus.
And so when you took it to your campus, was it you went straight to the president, or did you, basically?
Yeah, so I was president of the School of Business Student Council. Okay. And so I used that position to get into the provost office and the CIO and the president. And over the summer, I put together these letters. I rallied my other friends who were student leaders to get on the same bandwagon. They were not as swift with picking up my proposal as I wanted them to be, so we staged a little protest on campus. So there's a really funny picture of me with a bullhorn, yelling about wanting more access to technology on campus. So yes, I went through this whole process, and eventually they were like, okay, fine, we'll do this.
Do you remember how much they purchased the software for?
It's free.
Free, all free.
It's all free. So
Okay.
it was just a matter of them being willing to change from, and obviously, like, I think Microsoft had put a certain amount of money into the university, and there's politics involved, and I didn't really know all that at the time. I was just like, I was young and really wanted Google, so yeah.
So then at your time at Google, were you understanding and appreciating sales, enterprise sales even more? Is that one of the big lessons that you took away from Google?
Absolutely. So my initial offer was for Google for Education, but by the time I got there, they were like, actually, we want you to work on the enterprise team. So I ended up selling to businesses instead of schools.
Is that like a 6-month transition, 3-month, or were you a year at the education?
No.
Oh, day one.
Day one.
Okay.
Yeah, my offer letter said Google for EDU, and then I got there and they were like, we don't want you to do that anymore. We want you to do this. So I was like, okay, well, I'm here now, so I guess I'll be selling to businesses. But I credit that experience with, that was huge foundational for me because I had not been accustomed to hearing no prior. And I got used to no really quickly because I had to just smile and dial every day, calling businesses. At that time, again, this is 2010, so Google, it was called Google Enterprise at that time. It's like Google Cloud now, but Google Enterprise was not the dominant player. So most people I was calling were really locked into Outlook and all the Microsoft products, and mostly people were telling me no. So I got really accustomed to hearing that and just keep going. I was just calling all day. And I'm pretty shy, so it got me out of my shell as far as being able to talk to people, explain to them the benefits, and set up funnels. So first year I was really just calling, and the second year I was the point person for marketing automation.
Yep.
So I set up, I hate to say this for David in the room, but we were using Marketo at the time, and all the funnels for that was my project for a year.
So at this time, you're obviously learning a lot, right? Are you in the back of your mind saying, this is all going to be great, these are all going to be great skills to one day create a business? Did you have this in mind, or was it more just, I'm trying to learn as much as possible and,
So I did have in mind that I wanted to create a business. Actually, I had written up a business plan when I was in school, and like my last semester I did this entrepreneurship class where our deliverable was however many page business plan, and I was trying to pursue that business very lightly trying. I hadn't gone all into it, but I bought the domain and was making plans. And it was actually the exact same business as Style Seat. I don't know if you've ever heard of this company, but like you can book hair appointments and nail appointments and all this. It was literally the exact same business, to the point where I really think I met the founder somewhere and like told her my idea, but we probably just had the same. But anyway, I was trying to do that, but I was also volunteering with some of the like startup initiatives that Google was doing at the time. So I was seeing this kind of real life examples of people who I knew coming up with ideas and pursuing them. Like they'd be my coworker one day, and then a few months later I'd read about them on TechCrunch and I'd be like, what? They were just here. So that I think gave me confidence to pursue ideas, because I was like, there are people who I know who are doing this.
Yep.
And I don't think they're necessarily smarter than me. Maybe they have more access, but I feel like I can do it too.
Awesome. So that gave you confidence, and then knowing what you know now with Partpic, how much of those skills that you acquired at Google did you apply at Partpic from a go-to-market perspective?
So many. So from the perspective of just building the business using Google Apps, I was very well versed in that since I've been selling it. So, knew how to set all that stuff up. And then mostly from the sales perspective, just being relentless as far as calling people. Luckily with Partpic, we didn't have to do very much outbound. We had gotten some good press, and we had a lot of incoming leads coming from the website, but just the notion of how do you follow up, how do you set up email campaigns so that you don't always have to call people. All that stuff I picked up at Google, and I think that was pretty helpful.
Fantastic. All right, so let's fast forward to, you spent 2 years out in California, right? Then moved to Atlanta in 2012?
Yep.
Okay, family brought you here.
Yep.
And then walk us through 2012 or 2013. When's the transition from Google to the current role that gave you the idea of Partpic?
Sure. So 2012, my grandmother was diagnosed with breast cancer. My younger brother was having a heart condition that the doctors didn't know what it was. And I was finding myself flying back and forth from California. My brother lives in Mobile, and my grandmother's in Nashville. And at a certain point, I was like, I can't be in California and tend to them in the way that I want to, so I need to move. Luckily, I had interviewed with a company called McMaster-Carr when I was in college, and still had a relationship with the recruiter there, and they have a office here. So I called her and I was like, hey, that job that y'all offered me 2 years ago, any chance still available? And she was like, no, but you can come back and interview. So I came to Atlanta and interviewed and got the job. And they called me when I was in the airport and said, you got the job. And I was flying back to California. So when I got back to California, I put in my 2 weeks at Google and packed up my stuff and moved to Atlanta. Yeah.
Now, was this in sales, or what was the role?
Yeah, so they had a leadership development program. My job was a sales manager, so I was managing the call center, and that's kind of what led me to understand the industry and the problems. So essentially, the reason I started Partpic is because I was the person who got a lot of the escalations when we'd sent the wrong products out. And so when I was investigating what happened on the initial phone calls, I heard this recurring theme, which is people have difficulty describing what they want to buy when they don't know what it's called. And they don't have, when they don't have a part number for it. And a lot of times they would try, and a lot of times they would say, I have one, I just need to get another one, or the one I have is broken, and I send a picture of it. And we didn't have any way to facilitate that request. So if it was an amazing customer, we'd say, okay, fax us a picture. We'll take it to the one guy in the warehouse that knows what this is. But we would refuse the work for most customers. And I thought, we're leaving a lot of money on the table. And I actually researched and saw how much money we were leaving on the table by not doing that work, and how much money we were losing by sending out the wrong products and having to figure it out, reship items, all that. So yeah, that just looked like a business opportunity to me.
So how long does that discovery process take, right? I mean, day one, were you like, okay, I'm going to go find the inefficiency and go start a company? Or were you like, all right, I'm just going to come in, do my thing, be self-starting, and kind of see where the business can be a little bit more efficient, and maybe offer up some ideas, but you really tackle the problem?
Yeah, so it wasn't day one. It was several months of me feeling like this is the worst job I've ever had, because I was getting yelled at by customers every day pretty much. And I was feeling like I would throw little ideas out there for how we could better serve customers, and I wasn't getting the type of response that I would expect. People were basically laughing at the ideas. So I knew that if I came up with something good, I wouldn't be able to start it inside. I'd have to go out and then maybe have them as a customer one day. But it took, so it was, I started there in April 2012 and came up with the idea for Partpic in December. So it was about 6 months between when I first started and just looking around and being like, this is weird, to, okay, this is a solid idea that I think I could actually pursue.
Okay, so you've got the idea. You started in 2013. When do you start recruiting a co-founder?
So I always remember this date, but it was 12/12/12 when I had the light bulb moment for Partpic. And the first person I told about it was my mom. I sent her an email, and I was basically letting her know that I want to go after this idea and trying to subtly get her buy-in. If it fails, I get moved back home. So
Setting expectations.
Yes, pretty much.
It's
So
very smart.
she is very supportive. I have a great mom, so she was like, "This is a good idea, and I got your back just in case." So she was the first person I reached out to, and then the second person was the person who became my co-founder. His name is Jason Crane, and at the time he was working at Shazam. So previously he and I had been co-workers at Google, and around the time I left to go to McMaster, he left to go to Shazam. And when I thought about the product, I wanted to feel like Shazam, so I was like, do I know anyone at Shazam? Oh, Jason's at Shazam. So I just sent him like a Google chat message, and I was like, hey, I have an idea. And he's my friend, so he's used, like I have ideas all the time. I'm sure he was like, sure, whatever. But he entertained me, and we went back and forth about it all day. And so he kind of allowed, put holes into the idea, and me trying to come back and be like, no, but we can do that, do that, do that. And then we actually had conversations with some engineers at Shazam to understand just feasibility of the technology. And they were like, it's gonna be really hard, but I think it's possible. And that's all I needed to hear.
Very, very cool. So when you say it's going to be really hard, what is the specific, help us understand the product.
Yeah. So Partpic is, I don't know, a computer vision API essentially to recognize parts with an image. So the components of that are the computer vision technology that does the recognition, where there's lots of computer vision APIs out there. There weren't as many when we started, but there were some. And the problem with those, the reason why we couldn't just load part images into one of those and call it a day, is that they did not understand the specificity that is needed for parts.
Right.
So in order for Partpic to work, we had to create algorithms that can recognize this is a bolt, this is a 2-inch bolt, this is a bolt with 13 threads per inch, all these different pieces. And essentially we just took apart all the different elements that make up any given part and created algorithms that could detect each of these elements and and then we use like a coin as a reference. So that was, one of the things is we always know the absolute size of a penny or a dime, and we can use that information to measure the rest of the part.
And so you'd build the software and sell it to suppliers that were fielding calls every day that said, hey, I just need this one part and I need 1,000 more of them now or something like that. Okay.
Exactly. So our business model was to license that technology to distributors, retailers, manufacturers for them to embed inside their mobile apps or on their websites to allow their customers to take pictures of stuff and send it.
Did you have, so many entrepreneurs struggle with pricing. Did you have a pricing model kind of ready to go where it's like, okay, in 6 months,
No.
Like, let's just build it and we can sell it for however much?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, luckily we did have what I would say like guinea pigs. So I think that's one thing to speak to how important ecosystems are. National Builder Supply, they were at National Builder Supply at that time, now supply.com. The founders of that,
Kevin and Heath.
Heath, yeah. I went to a program they were doing at Georgia Tech, like I kind of stuck into it. I wasn't a student, I'm sure it was for students, but I was young enough. So I went in and I was definitely like asking a ton of questions. And at some point they were just like, okay, so what are you trying to do? Why are you asking all these questions? And I told them, because this is when Partpic was just an idea. I told them about it. And they said, if you can build that, we'll be your first customer.
So early 2013.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just kept in touch with them and kind of sent them updates. And they really were like a guinea pig customer. So they helped me understand how I could potentially price it and think about it from the perspective of like what our actual costs were. But then also, the way we looked at it was we're saving companies this X amount of money because they're not having to reship product. And
so close to the wallet.
Yeah. But we really priced it like just a SaaS model. Yeah.
So let's shift back to the people side, right? You're convincing Jason to be the co-founder. He's at Shazam, right? So are y'all going back and forth daily? Is it weekly? Like, I mean, how much in your mind at this point are you like, is this a side hustle versus I'm going all in?
So for me, I was going all in.
Okay.
I loved the idea, and really, let me not say I loved the idea. I was very obsessed with solving the problem. The one part I didn't mention is that outside of my work at McMaster, the thing that really motivated me was that my grandfather had experienced the same problem of not being able to find a part. In his case, it was for a tractor. And I really care about my grandfather a lot, and I wanted to make it so that he never had the difficulty of finding this part again. So I had a driving kind of motivation to solve the problem. And I also wasn't happy in my job, so I was like, I'm gonna quit and start a company. But, you know, Jason had like a high-paying job in New York, and I'm sure he also liked the idea, but I don't think, he had that same burning desire that I did to solve this problem in the parts industry. So it definitely, and actually I didn't know when I was reaching out to him, I was not reaching out to him for him to become my co-founder. Yeah. I was just reaching out to him because I wanted to get his point of view on something I thought he might know about. So
many entrepreneurs that we talk to, they say right at this point of the business, right? They got this great idea, they've probably put together a pitch deck, and now the only thing that's stopping them is $675,000 to go build it, right?
Yeah.
What did you do at that point where you're like, I got this great idea, and now I'm gonna go do it? What were those next steps between funding, building, recruiting? How did you solve that puzzle? Yeah, so when I came up with the idea to when I quit my job was like a 6 or 7 month period. So during that time I was saving up money, kind of scaling back my lifestyle so that I could be my first investor. So I saved up a considerable amount so that I could pay for the MVP to be developed. And then when things became a little bit more expensive than I was forecasting, I got a loan. So the first year, pretty much the first year of 2013.
Yeah, the year 2013, I paid for, essentially. And I'm just reminiscing about like, dang, that was a lot of money. But
care to share?
How much it was?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it like this. When I sold the company, I had loan to founder in my sheets of like $70,000.
Yeah.
So for me, as a 23-year-old person, that was a lot of money.
Yes.
So I put in the first bit to get us kind of off the ground, and then after that, I had one family friend and one person who was a client of my mom's who just like seen me grow up and gave me money.
And so this is late 2013, early 2014?
Late 2013. The idea behind this was that I gotten into TechCrunch Disrupt. Wait, am I getting my numbers right? TechCrunch? I think that was in 2013. Maybe it was 14. Can't remember. But I didn't raise money from other people until we had the opportunity to pitch at TechCrunch Disrupt and needed some money to get out there.
Now, was that TechCrunch Disrupt Atlanta, New York, or
SF?
SF. Okay.
I don't think they even had TechCrunch Disrupt anywhere else besides SF at that time.
Cool.
Maybe they did, but definitely not in Atlanta.
And then real quick to interrupt, so MVP, right, 2013, how far along is the MVP?
Okay, now I'm remembering time frame. So started a accelerator in New York in July 2013. Demo day for that, we have a very, very, very basic MVP that there's like 5 parts on the table, and you can take a picture of only these 5 parts. It will return an answer, but if you try anything else, it will not work.
But the technology works. So yeah, we had
so this is like October 2013 where we had something that we could show, very rough, something to give people an idea of where we're going with this. And then after that, I came back to Atlanta, and now we're kind of going into 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and this, we're still talking about Jules' money.
Yeah.
No one else is put anything in. So it's really not until September 2014 that we have made some more progress on the product. This is when National Builder Supply has been allowing us to use their parts, image their parts,
database,
all that stuff. And that's what we presented at TechCrunch Disrupt. So if anyone's ever seen that video of my pitch, National Builder Supply was the company that we displayed as far as like being our first customer and having a product that kind of worked better than, you know. And that's when I brought in money, was literally to get us to be able to do that pitch. And that kind of kicked off fundraising after that.
Okay, great. So then TechCrunch Disrupt, you get up on stage, you share the story, and then you're like, all right, well, I guess I'll probably go raise some more money, right? Or raise money.
Yeah.
Raise money in general,
Yeah.
right? And were you like, I'm gonna raise $500,000, $1 million? What was there?
I think by that time I learned enough and kind of understood what I needed. So, by the way, this whole year, I'm the only one working full time, and actually midway through that, I ran out of money, so I needed to get a job. Because I didn't think of it as like I need to go raise money. I was like, I just need to keep putting money into this business if I wanted to keep going. So I ended up, convincing Google to let me come back and be an entrepreneur in residence. So I was able to work at Google but still build Partpic. And that allowed me to pay my own bills and then also kind of put some more money into getting stuff built. Because at this time, nobody else was full-time working on it.
And you could do that in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay, tangential question. Are you a technical co-founder? Are you a technical founder?
I am not. And I put an asterisk by that because I don't have an engineering degree, but I've had to learn so much about CV, machine learning. I feel like I deserve a little
A big asterisk.
recognition. Yeah.
Okay, great. It's but so the MVP was built by was it an agency? Was it a friend?
So this is I don't know where this video is going, but I'm going to tell you this anyway. Okay, so we had a technical co-founder sort of close to the beginning, but it didn't work out. And we brought in someone that we met through that person who had really been doing a bulk of the work and had more of an expertise in the area. So she became our CTO. And it was just a little bit late for her to get the kind of official technical co-founder title.
Sure.
But in practice, she really has been that, and is still even at Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff to cover in the next few moments. So 2014, overall you raised 2.1, right? And you win the Rise of the Rest, right? So it seems like, and help me understand this, once you got up on stage at TechCrunch, then the kind of PR doors were opened from just a storyline, right? Hey, here's a very technical problem that's being solved in a creative way. And how did you raise 2.1 and get acquired by Amazon? Just go ahead and answer that one for us. Everyone get their notebooks out.
Okay, so the 2.1, like I said, I got it on stage at TechCrunch. That put me out as far as getting attention, people coming up to me. My hack for being a shy person was doing pitch competitions because it allowed me to get on stage, say my pitch, and then people come to me. So I don't have to go to people. And that worked out. So outside of TechCrunch, because we didn't win money there, we just won an award from Accenture and lots of press. But outside of that, I think I did 250 from pitch competitions. And that was just me applying to stuff. And
that's non-dilutive too, right?
Yeah, most of it was. The Rise of the Rest was in our round. So let's say 150K was not dilutive. Yeah, so then it was, okay, my strategy for fundraising was to put circles around people that I thought would be interested. So for example, Joanne Wilson was the investor I would credit with really kicking us off as far as getting more people to the table, because she wrote the first check outside of the two people who I knew. And in order for her to write the check, I met people who she knew and tried to get them to tell her about me. But I tried to make it so that it was like 5 people in 1 week talking to her about me. So if she's just like, okay, I need to meet this Jewel girl because everyone's talking about her. And yeah, so that was my fundraising strategy, was to just like put a little circle around folks that I wanted to talk to, get their friends to talk about me, and then they want to have a meeting. Yeah.
And then, so she wrote the first check, excuse me, and then, sorry, help us understand. So this whole time you've got, supply.com as a customer. You're going to go get more customers, but you're also raising more money. How did you get the first paying customer?
Yeah, so okay, so the first paying customer actually I think saw us at TechCrunch, Disrupt, and just submitted a web inquiry. And that was the Hillman Group, and they were one of the largest suppliers for fasteners in Home Depot, Ace Hardware, so like perfect customer for what we wanted to do. And then from there, literally,
Inbound, a lot of inbound.
Almost all inbound, except our placement at ATDC was also very helpful because we were like right by the elevator, so we were always on the tours when companies were coming through.
Serendipitous.
Yeah, so we got a few customers that way as well.
And what were y'all charging, pricing at that point?
We were charged, so our way that we got in the door was that we would do paid pilots of like $10,000 to $30,000 depending on how many parts they wanted to include in the pilot. And then we would move that to an annual license of $120K, around there, depending on how.
So significant. I mean, these are, big enterprise deals.
Yeah, and these are big companies also.
Yeah.
So, if you want to hear about a mistake, one mistake I think that I made was that because I was comfortable in sales, I was happy to sell, but the technology was always a little bit behind. And because we position ourselves as an enterprise SaaS, it's pretty much an enterprise SaaS company to investors, that's how we were compared when we were going out and fundraising. So we were always trying to get more revenue in, but actually I think we should have been positioned as a high-tech research software company, because we always really needed more time to develop. So that's one. If I could do one thing over, it would be just to change how we were positioned, because we were always kind of chasing customers. I was always chasing customers because that's the thing that I could control, but we were always underwater when it came to being able to develop and deploy for these customers, because we didn't have a turnkey solution where you could just sign up. It was, we had to bring in parts, get these parts imaged, get them in our database, run our algorithms.
A lot of implementation.
It was a lot of pieces to the puzzle, right? So that's one thing I think I could have done differently.
So all of 2015, you're out there selling, you're out there creating and selling the vision to customers, to investors. Engineering team is building, and then when does Amazon
come into the picture?
Yeah, when did they get on your radar? Yeah,
so initially Amazon, we talked to Amazon about becoming a customer, and this was before we were ready. Classic me, like going out and talking to folks that we probably shouldn't be talking to yet. But the way that they came to the table as far as acquisition was that I had become really passionate about getting my CTO more opportunities to get out there as a thought leader, because I think she's a brilliant person and nobody knew who she was. So I had researched some conferences and reached out to them and been like, hey, you need some more diversity in your speakers, because mostly all the speakers were men. So I would just send them a note and say, I think you should invite this person. And they were like, you're totally right, we'll bring her on. So it was a deep learning conference in Boston. She was doing a presentation on Partpic.
Yep.
And a few corporate development folks were in the room, and they came up to her after her presentation, handed her a card. I don't think that she really knew what corporate development was or like what the function of that group and organization is. So she just like handed me a stack of cards when she came back to the office on Monday, and I'm flipping through the cards, and I was like, what does Amazon corporate development want?
And this is 2016, early 16.
This is May 2016.
Okay.
Yep. So by this time, this is just when we're getting to the point where our paid pilots are kind of going, churning, not churning, but doing
humming.
pretty well, humming, there you go. And things are just kind of picking up at this time. So I was not by any means seeking an acquisition. I wasn't really ready, and like personally, I wasn't ready.
And y'all had money in the bank, and you'd raised money.
We raised the seed round in 2015, closed it in June of 2015. May 2016, I was going back out to raise a Series A, and I wasn't happy with how things were going with it. We were getting term sheets, but they just weren't the terms that I wanted to see. I think
any specifics, like preferences or,
price, preferences, there's many reasons why I think that is. I think that part of it is what I was mentioning earlier about me not positioning us correctly as far as we kind of pigeonholed ourselves to be compared against enterprise SaaS that were turnkey and ready to go, and ours just wasn't that way. And other things too. But so I was frustrated with the experience of raising the Series A, and Amazon came to the table with an offer. And initially, it wasn't clear if it was going to be. It wasn't clear when we reached out and had the first conversations that they were going to put an offer for acquisition on the table. Actually, initially, I thought they were going to invest in the round that I was trying to raise. But once they came to Atlanta and met the team and did all that, then put an offer on the table, and then I had to make a quick decision. Yeah.
And did they, when they put the offer on the table, did they pitch, hey, we're doing this, you're doing this, and this would be really good for this together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the decision process like?
The decision process was me getting real with myself about the challenges ahead for Partpic, and ultimately my vision for the technology and my team. And my ultimate vision was to get the technology in the hands of everyone. And I saw Amazon as an opportunity to do that in a much quicker time frame than I'd be able to do it on my own. And it also was an understanding of the timing as far as how fast we would be able to get customers, So one thing about Partpic is I think we're a little bit early to market as far as people's ability to adopt the technology, because, for example, most of the customers that we were selling to did not have great e-commerce imagery.
Could have been still on the flip phone too.
Right, exactly. I mean, they were really behind the ball. So in order for us to be able to sell into a company, we had to photograph all their parts because a lot of them didn't have it. They were still operating in PDFs and catalogs. So there was still time that we really needed some more time to pass as far as folks getting to where we were.
To that point, how everyone talks about successful entrepreneurships and market timing and all of that. How valuable? I mean, that's a great example of market timing, and is the market ready? Did you experience? How real was that experience where you're like, look, we're just a touch early?
Yeah, I mean that is literally that's the conclusion I came to that led me to sell Partpic, is that in order for us to really make it and hit that hockey stick, we need more time. We need more time for the industry to catch up. So it's like, can I raise the money that's going to give us that time on terms that I like? And the answer to that was looking like no. So it was, okay, well, that sucks. But here we have an offer and
From Amazon.
And honestly, like even though the timing wasn't what I expected, I did have an idea that I would want to sell the business to an Amazon. So it's like, it's here, this is the opportunity, and it checked the boxes as far as what I needed to do to feel like I had accomplished my goals. So, yeah.
Well, so 2 years later, so that was 2000.
End of 2016, so
End of 2016.
exactly 2 years ago, yeah.
I feel like we're at a point in your entrepreneurial journey where you've been written up in Forbes, Wired magazine, Ebony 150, Essence 150.
One of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's just so much more ahead, right? I mean, there's on the journey of Jules' legacy, right? You're at almost still the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So help share with the room. You're at Amazon. What's the 20-year vision, and more importantly, what things did you learn that you're going to take to the next 20 years?
Sure. That's a big question. So the biggest thing for me right now is that I feel that I didn't have enough help as far as people that I could go to who had been through the whole cycle. So a big part of my life now is just spending time with entrepreneurs and trying to be a resource. Because I don't know it all, but I definitely learned a lot during the process. So there's mistakes that I made that I don't want other people to make, and so that's been a big part of the last 2 years for me, and it's helped me to still feel involved in the entrepreneurial community, because it's a big decision to sell your company, and it honestly, I've talked about this a little bit publicly, but like I've dealt with a lot of depression and anxiety about just the fact that I don't own what I built anymore, and that's like a big thing that I've had to struggle with. And so a big part of just me staying fresh and understanding what people are working on and like what are the cool new things has been spending time with entrepreneurs. So out of that, I think, what the next 20 years for me looks like is making it so that there's more equity in the tech entrepreneurship space. I feel like I dealt with a lot of things that were unfair just because of kind of me, who I am. So I want to make sure that that's not the case in 20 years. And I'm also really now interested in this notion of like various ways for businesses to be funded, because I think my business was a good fit for venture capital just because of the nature of what we were trying to do and like how expensive it could have been to build it all the way out. But I have this idea that actually most businesses, and this is not just my idea, like this is a fact, most businesses are not a good fit for traditional VC models, and so I'm really interested in being a leader in thinking about how can you start and run a business that will be a very good business, but maybe won't be a unicorn. Like, what does that look like? So those are the types of things that I'm thinking about right now.
Very cool. Yes. Well, I want to thank you for your time this morning and the amazing stories that you've shared. Thank you. And would love to open the floor open to anyone who's got questions.
Maybe 2 questions, if that works. Here you go, behind you.
Can you talk more about the discussions with Amazon?
Like what? Sorry. What do you mean?
You mentioned that there was a short deadline. What kinds of things did they say to you in terms of why you want to sell to Amazon?
Okay. So generally, I think Amazon obviously wants to make it super simple for customers to be able to buy products in any form. So the reason why Partpic was attractive is because we made it simpler for customers to find the parts that they need. So that was very broadly kind of the reason why a partnership would make sense and acquisition would make sense. As far as the discussions, as I mentioned, we started in May 2016 and the deal was done October 31st of 2016. So as acquisitions go, I've heard that that's relatively quick. It felt like an eternity when I was going through it. And, so for me, it was a huge learning experience. I didn't have a ton of help as I was thinking about the negotiations and everything. Luckily, like you mentioned about the Wired feature, Alexis Ohanian is a friend and he had sold his company, Reddit, several years ago. So he was one person I reached out to and was able to get some advice from. But generally, I didn't have a ton of knowledge as far as how do you go about doing this, but I had certain non-negotiables that I just stuck to throughout the process. I had 3 actually, and was just really adamant about making sure that those things were met. And I let my lawyer handle a lot of the fine print as far as what the next years of life will look like post-acquisition.
And one more here.
Thank you for doing this. Very cool story. So you're out meeting with a lot of entrepreneurs and companies right now. Thanks for doing that. The world needs that.
Sure.
Needs you doing that.
Yeah.
What companies or people are you super excited about right now? Which ones should we be circling and watching?
Yeah, so the one I talk about all the time, I'm sure people have heard me talk about her, but Jasmine Crow Gooder is the one I'm most excited about right now because I think that she is a great entrepreneur, but she's really solving a critical problem. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, Gooder is rescuing food from airports, convention center, large places that have lots of food and waste lots of food currently. She's rescuing that good food that's there at the end of the day, no one's touched or eaten, and delivering it to nonprofits that serve the hungry and homeless communities in Atlanta. And there's a few reasons why that's important. It's one, because serving and feeding people is a great mission. Also, there's a huge environmental piece of it where every gallon or whatever food that gets thrown out is also contributing to carbon emissions and all of these environmental issues that we have currently. And so being able to distribute that food in a way that is helpful is a huge opportunity, and I think the business model is sound. So I'm an investor in that company, and I'm super excited about it.